So in the last lecture, we talked about public speaking apprehension, and you saw the video. By the way, the video, I have students years later come back and say, oh, that video with a guy, and he almost, and I'm like, yeah, I know. So that video illustrates so much of what's going on with public speaking apprehension. But the other thing that really is useful in that clip is what's going on or what's not going on with his breathing. At one point, he grabs his chest and he steps back. And what he says, you might not have been able to hear it, was, I can't get my breath. Now, you can't tell in that clip, maybe, but he's an athletic guy. He's plenty healthy. The fact that he runs out of breath is a problem. But what's happening there, you can go back and listen, is he stands up, he takes a breath in, and he takes another breath in, and he continues to talk, and finally he steps away from the microphone because he can't get a breath. He's out of breath because his lungs are full of air, right? He never exhales. He's only inhaling. If he was stuck in helium, dude would have flown up to the ceiling, man. So he's only taking in his breath, okay? And he has to step away. So one of the things, and this starts transitioning to our other lectures on delivery, but one of the things I want to hammer home here, because it speaks to one way you can deal with apprehensiveness, and also it's just perfectly illustrated in that clip, is when you stand up to speak, you should be speaking from your diaphragm, breathing from your diaphragm. Now, you've probably heard this in the past. In essence, you don't actually breathe from your diaphragm. So the diaphragm is this muscle right at your lungs. And as you expand, it allows more air to fill in your lungs. So right now, wherever you are, put your hand on your stomach, okay? And I want you to, with me, camera guys are putting their hands on their stomach. Thanks for that. That gives me some sense of audience here. So there was nothing about that demanded that you do it. So put your hand on your stomach. Now, yeah, go ahead. I'm locked into it now. So, and what I want you to do is, with me, take a steady breath in. And when I'm going to count to 5, hold for 5, out for 5. And I want your hand to go out, but I don't want your shoulders to move up and down. You're not going to be taking shallow breaths, like if you're running or you're out of breath. Right there, your shoulders are moving up and down. So you want your hand here, and I want you to do in for a count of 5, hold for a count of 5, and out for a count of 5. And you should feel your entire trunk expand and then contract as you're pushing that air out. Okay? So with me. And hold, should be totally comfortable. And out. I'm going to have you do it again. The other thing on pushing out is it should be a steady stream of air. So imagine, if you will, you had like a candle, and you're blowing it so that the flame stayed at a constant angle and didn't jump around. Or if you had a tiny kite and you were blowing it so it stayed perfectly in the air and didn't zip around. Okay? So again, hand on your stomach, in for a count of 5. And hold. And out for a count of 5. Okay, good. Now, that's just expanding your trunk and pushing the air out deliberately. Now, you're not going to do that in your speech, right? So it's not like, I think MOOC should carry credit for 2 main reasons. Now, that might be great for if you're maybe teaching a yoga class. That might be good for everybody there, but you're not doing that. But that physical sensation is what you should be feeling when you stand up to speak. You're expanding, you're taking a full volume of air into your lungs, and when you're speaking, you're pushing out that air with steady force. That air is passing over those vocal folds with steady force. Now, what this is going to do for you is not only make it better in terms of you're not going to run out of breath, but good breathing and good projection, I would say, are the Rosetta Stones of good delivery. If you've got breathing and projection down, you're probably not going to go too fast. You don't have to worry about being heard. So many things emerge from this. So that's why we're talking about it here, breathing and projection. So we need that volume of air because we want to project. And by that, I mean I want to speak so I can easily be heard by everybody in the room. And not just to reach the back of the room, but imagine there were 10 rows past the back of that room. Could they still easily hear me? And I want this because I don't want to lose out to environmental sound, okay? As a speaker, you know what's going on, or you can hear what's going on around you, but you may not be able to hear what's going on in the back of the room. There may be ambient sound back there that you don't know about. There could be someone hard of hearing in your audience that you don't know about. So you don't want to lose out to that. So you want to project so you can easily be heard, okay? So the other thing is, and this would probably be the case in most settings, and I do this if I'm in a large lecture hall or in a small room, I want to hear a little bit of an echo. So I want to project enough so that my voice is sort of bouncing off the back wall and coming back to me. That tells me that I'm sort of filling the space with sound. But I got to have good breathing to get there. Now, as it relates to the clip that we just watched, good breathing and good projection wouldn't save the fact that he hadn't really prepared that as a speech, but it would save a lot of the delivery problems there, right? Good breathing and projection can knock out the wavy voice. The wavy voice is when, it's very soft and there's not enough breathing. So, it's the voice that sounds like you're about to cry, right? That doesn't happen with projection. So you can knock that right out by just having some good projection and good breath control, okay? I want to make sure you've got this down so that we can talk about other delivery issues. But breathing and projection are key to good delivery. Now, I know not everybody watching this video has a habit of standing up in front of an audience and speaking at full volume, but you have the capacity. Insofar as you have lungs and a mouth, you can be doing this. Okay? And it changes the very nature of the performance. So even now, I'm mic'd up and everything, so this isn't, I don't have an audience here. But even now, if I just wanted to easily be heard in this scenario, in this setting, I could probably drop to about here. So I could do my entire time here and say, well, gosh, that guy, he had a lot of problems when he did that speech. And he seemed pretty nervous. I can't do this for very long, and it drives me crazy because it's not the speaking persona that I've developed. So I speak at volume, and I speak at volume because it regulates a lot of things going on in delivery. And it makes sure that I'm not going to run out of breath, it knocks out any wavy voice, and I know I can be heard and clearly understood. So we're going to start moving into more delivery issues. But before we do, the main thing is thinking about apprehension and good breathing and breath control and projection. Public speaking apprehension is natural. It happens. And it happens as a result of multiple factors. You may have more of a propensity for public speaking apprehension or not. You may be experiencing some situations where it's really manifest and others where it's not as evident. There are prevention techniques. Okay, getting used to public speaking scenarios, changing your thinking about public speaking, and getting better at it. These are the pathways to reducing that apprehension. And the other thing that's going to transition us into good delivery is breathe well and project. Don't be ashamed of your role as a speaker, but make sure you can be heard. We'll talk more about this when we get into more stuff on delivery.